Hi, Kumar.
Hi Fiona, how are you keeping on?
Yeah, fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm all right, thank you.
Good.
Right. So you had a weekend and we are back to our work again.
I know, yeah, it kind of passed in a whirlwind the weekend. I was so busy, and I ended up doing some work as well. So,
Oh.
yeah, it's kind of, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
back to
always,
study again now.
always the time gets filled up, isn't it?
I know, yes.
Yeah. You think the day will be all right, but to see it's already filled up with so many things ahead.
I know.
That is why ACC always says think ahead.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Ah,
there's a lot to do for ACCA as well, isn't there? So it's hard
yeah.
to juggle everything. But yeah, I'm
Mm,
gonna get there.
very true, very true. Yeah. So shall we start with our consolidated accounts today? Because what I
Yes,
thought was
please.
there is a fair amount of work to be done again. And
Yeah,
after that, hopefully, we have classes the whole of this week. So we should be able to be
yes.
looking at some questions towards the latter stages, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Right. So we will start off with little bit of, trying to get into the terminology because I think in ACCA, unlike CIMA, again, they ask lots of theory stuff. We have to be fairly
Yes.
knowledgeable with the wordings, the definitions, all that. CIMA doesn't care too much about all that, but ACCA is little bit onto the theory.
Yeah.
They have a big question to ask 50 marks, so they can put any theory areas in that one. So I thought I will just take over you, particularly with the new development, because now the consolidated accounts earlier during our time, it was IAS 27, 28, 29, but now it is
Yes.
IFRS 10. So it's a new standard we have. So we need to know a
Yes.
little bit on new terminology, what they use in the I'm recording this and I'm on the recording now, so I will record the lesson also for you.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Basically, as I said now, it's the IFRS 10. Earlier, our time, it was IAS 28, 27 was the standard. But now for
Yeah.
consolidators IFRS 10, the two terms is we must have a parent company and we must have
Mhm.
a subsidiary company.
Yeah.
So the definition in the IFRS 10 is when a parent and subsidiary exist, it's a group. So I want you to note down that one. If a
Yeah.
parent and an associate, or rather associate company and another company exists, it's not a group. Group means you must have a parent and a subsidiary.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a family. For you to have a family, you must have a husband, wife, and some children. That's what we call a
Yeah.
family. So like that, when they call a group only needs to prepare consolidated financial statements. And for that to happen, you must have a parent and a subsidiary. Why I'm saying this is there was a question in ACC some time back. They gave a company called Company A, and they were holding shares in another company about 35%. It was an associate company. And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they asked, should we prepare consolidated statements? All that, and everyone said yes, yes, because we have a parent and associate. No, if you have an associate, in fact, you don't have a parent. You must have a subsidiary for you to be the parent.
Yeah.
You must have a son or a daughter for you to be a parent. That's the thing. Just because you have a niece or nephew, you don't become a parent.
No.
Right? So because and therefore, how can you have a subsidiary? Now that is what the IFRS 10 gives a new definition. If the investor, that is the company A, is the investor, if the company A can control the investee, the company B where he has invested some money, and how the control comes up is the company A, that is what we call the parent company in reality, if they are entitled or if they have the right for variable returns. Now, you know, when we invest money in a company, we get dividends, right?
Yeah.
You and I, we will get dividend. Now, can we, you know, we have a small investment, shall we say 2,000 shares, 2,000 shares. Can we go and demand the company saying, we want $5 dividend this year. Next year, you know, my daughter is getting married. I want $6 dividend. Can
No,
we?
no. The business has to have the availability to be able to give dividends to its shareholders.
Even if it is available, let's assume you have invested in a big company and you know that they have big profit. And now you go and say, hey, I'm doing ACCA, I want some money, you know, can you make an increased dividend? No, they will not give you, right? Because the decision to pay the dividend is with the directors. Understand? Decision to pay the amount is so you have no control over directors. So because of that, you can't go and ask this year, you know, I want this dividend, tomorrow, next year I want that dividend. You can't, because you have no control over the director.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have 50% or more inside that company, if you have gone a 50% shares in the company, you can appoint the majority directors. You have the full control over the directors. And if you have the control over the directors, you can go and tell the directors, hey, next year my daughter is getting married, I want a bigger dividend. You understand?
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
That is what gives you the control. Control is the power for you to get variable returns by your involvement. And you have the ability to affect those returns through what we call power over the investing. How do we get the power? We get power because we have the majority shares and we can appoint the directors. We can appoint the director because the directors only decide the dividend. So when we have the majority shares, we have the power. So it's a very simple presentation I'm giving you. That is the real definition for control, according to IFRS. In other words, it's not a question of holding 51%. It is not a question of holding 30%. Can you be exposed or right for variable returns? That's the thing. So power is defined as the existing rights that give the current ability to direct the relevant activities. What are the relevant activities? You have the power to direct the directors to decide the dividend because you have the power, right? So direct the relevance because the companies are directed by the directors, and that is what the corporate governance says. What is corporate governance? It's a system by which a company is directed and controlled. So the companies are directed and controlled by directors, and therefore, if you are a big shareholder or if your company is holding big shares in another company, and generally it is told if you have a 51% or more than 50% holding, you have the power. I'm saying generally. Even without 50%, sometimes you may have the power. Even with 100%, sometimes you may not have the power. Now, for example, in our country, Sri Lanka, we have this international hotel chain called Hilton Hotel. The owners, some Japanese are the owners. They own the 100% shares of the company. But the government has taken through legislation the control of the company. And therefore, even though they are holding 100%, they have no power, they have no control over the company to decide on the dividends. The government of Sri Lanka decides on the dividends, and therefore, even though it's a 100% owned company, still it's not a subsidy.
No, okay.
You get the point. So it's not a question. Normally for our accounting purposes, our examination purposes, it is assumed and presumed if you have 50%, we have the control. But it need not be always the case. So basically, you control if and only these elements. So this is very important for your ACC exam. To control a company, you must have these three things. power over the investee in accordance with the definition of power. That means you have the power to direct the relevant activity. Exposure rights or variable returns from its involvement with the investee. When you are a 50% or more than a shareholder, you are actively involved, right? If you are 1,000 shareholder, 50 shareholder, you are not really involved. You wait for the dividend, and after that you get the dividend. You are very happy with the dividend. If you get a big dividend, you will go and do some shopping. If you get a small dividend, you will go and buy a chocolate slab or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? But when you are a big shareholder, you are really involved in the company. That is what a parent does. Parent gets involved in the subsidiary company. Just like we parents, we are very involved with our children. We want to see our children do well. Similarly, the parent company is so involved, it's basically they own the subsidiary, and therefore they are very much involved. We are not involved in the other's children, isn't it? I mean, we will just look at hello, hi, kiss, good morning, good evening, and that's it. We are not involved about the other family's children. Then the third one is ability to use his power. You have the power, not only you have the power, you have the ability to use the power. So this is where I told you Sri Lankan company, a good example. They have got so much of interest, but they don't have the ability to use the power. So that's basically, these are the three control elements according to IFRS 10. No need to memorize, but you need to know exactly these wordings so that you can write this kind of a thing in your ACCA theory paper.
Yeah.
Basically, whenever we have a parent and a subsidiary, the parent must prepare consolidated financial statement. Now you have to remember one thing. Parent is company A. Company A must prepare its own financial statement as a single entity. Subsidiary is company B. Company B must prepare its own financial statements as a single entity. But if it's a parent and a subsidiary, a third statement needs to be prepared, which is called the consolidated financial statement, and that is done only by the parent.
Yeah.
So parent prepares its own statement, subsidiary prepares its own statement, but when it's a group, the parent has to prepare a third set of financial statement, what we call the consolidated financial statement. And for examination purposes, generally, it is said if you have more than 50% voting rights, it becomes your subsidiary. Now, the key word what I want you to underline is the voting rights. Now, you might hold in a company what we call preference shares. Preference shares does not give you any voting rights. Preference shares are the shares that gives you preference over dividends, that gives you preference over ordinary shares or equity shares at the time of liquidation, but they don't carry voting rights. In other words, even if you hold the 100% preference shares in a company, you have no power to control the company. You are only entitled for dividends. But if you hold equity shares, the ordinary shares in a company, they are what we call the voting shares. They are with that power, you can appoint directors, you can remove directors, you can accept the financial statements, you can reject the financial statements, you can decide on the dividends, all that through the control, and that is what we call the voting rights.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So a company where you hold 2 million preference shares and the total share capital is 2 million, the total preference share capital is 2 million, still you are not a controlling entity, and therefore you will not be bringing it as a subsidiary into the consolidation. But in another company, if you hold just 50% of the 2 million shares, but that is ordinary shares, that company will be your subsidiary.
Yeah. And that's another thing that, ACCA will definitely drop things like that into the exam.
Exactly. These are the little things the ACCA drops on our head, and in the examination mode, you can get really missed in this kind of little wording.
Yes.
And you might go and consolidate, do all the things, later on realize, oh my gosh, why did I do all these crazy things?
Yes, yes.
So that's
Yeah,
where,
it's very, especially under the exam pressure as well, because it's a lot to do in the time. It's very easy
exactly.
to, yeah, to go off on the wrong tangent. So,
Yeah, you can get misrepresented and misread all that. So that is why we have to, understand in the very simple language what these things are.
yes,
So that, the
yeah,
textbook stuff, technical stuff is very, very hard to absorb it. So we have to put it in very simple things and try to get that picture into our head. So
yes,
whenever we have a parent and a subsidiary, we must prepare consolidated financial statements. Who has to prepare? The parent has to prepare the consolidated financial statement, and the method of accounting according to IFRS 10 is now called acquisition accounting. So this may be another new term for you. It is called
yeah,
acquisition accounting. Earlier, we did not have a term like that. We were preparing consolidated statements, and it was
yes,
basically called consolidated accounting. But now we have two kinds of accounting. One called acquisition accounting, where we have a parent and a subsidiary. Then there's another
yeah,
one called equity accounting. That is where we have
yes.
an associate company.
Associate, yeah, yeah,
Associate company, we use the equity account in IS 28. IFRS 10 applies for parent and a subsidiary consolidated, and that is called equity. So these are the theory questions they will put up. What is the difference
yeah.
between acquisition accounting and equity accounting? Where do the acquisition accounting apply? Where do the equity accounting apply?
Yeah, so with
Mhm.
acquisition accounting, you've got the voting rights, which means that
Yeah,
you need to consolidate with equity
acquisition
accounting.
accounting
It's
is
just
for
an
consolidation.
associate.
Acquisition accounting is
Yeah,
for consolidation. In simply, what happens is your all assets, all liabilities, all turnover, all expenses of both the parent and the subsidiaries are added together, subject to some intercompany eliminations. They are added together. That is what we call acquisition accounting. But equity accounting, we don't add those assets of the associate company. So later on, we will look at the associate companies, but for the moment,
yeah,
we will concentrate on the acquisition accounting and group
yeah.
accounting. Group accounting is the consolidated accounting, IFRS 10, where you have a parent and a subsidiary. Now, one little take. Exemptions from group accounts. So, a parent need not present consolidated statements. I want to just get into that one. Parent need not get into the consolidated. Let me put up a little chart for you. Chart for you. So let's assume that we are company A. Company A is holding in company B 70% voting rights. So surely company A is a parent, company B is a subsidiary. And company A must prepare consolidated accounts in accordance with this, our IFRS 10. Agreed?
So sorry, what was that? Was that 70%?
Yeah, company A
Seven,
is
yeah,
holding in
70%.
company B 70% of voting rights.
Yes,
And
yeah,
there is nothing to say that they are not controlling. So assumption is when they hold more than 50%, they are controlling. And therefore, according to IFRS 10, company A must prepare consolidated financial statements, bring in the acquisition accounting, bring in A and B together. A must prepare its own statements, B must prepare its own statement, but in addition to that, A must prepare consolidated financial statements, right?
yeah.
Now I'm bringing another company called company C. Company C, company B is sold in 60% in company C. Now forget about the company A for the moment. Now if you look at B and C, who is the parent, who is the child or the subsidiary?
So A controls B and B controls
Yeah,
C.
forget A is, assume A is not there for the moment, for a
Oh,
second.
okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, so B controls C.
B controls C. So according to IFRS 10 definition, then B must prepare consolidated accounts, consolidating C, correct?
Yeah.
If there was no A, forget about A. According to our IFRS, then B is controlled in C. So because of that, B must prepare consolidated accounts, consolidate in C. But
Yeah.
now this is where the exemption comes. If you don't need to present consolidated statements, the B, the middle company, don't need to prepare consolidated financial statements if these all conditions are met. It is a wholly owned or partially owned subsidiary, and its owners, including those who are not entitled to have been informed about, and they do not object to the parent not presenting the consolidated financial statement. Now it's a lot of words, but let me explain
Yeah.
what it means. What it says is the company B is already a wholly or partially owned subsidiary of another company. Now in here we can see company B is partially owned by company A, right?
Yes.
Company B is partially owned by company A. So long as the company B is wholly or partially owned by company A, and the people of B are informed that the parent not presenting the consolidated financial statements, that is, they are told all their shareholders, we are not preparing consolidated financials. Number one.
Yeah.
Second one, its debt or equity instruments are not traded in the public market. So if B is a listed company, still you must prepare consolidated statement. If B is an unlisted company, then second condition is met.
Okay.
Second condition is met. It did not file its financial statement with Securities Commission. So Securities Commission or Stock Exchange, you have to file only if you are a listed company. So if B is not a listed company, they don't need to file their financial statements with securities or any other regulator. And if the ultimate parent, so ultimate parent is the grandfather, company A, right?
Yeah.
Ultimate parent is grandfather, the company. So long as grandfather is preparing consolidated financial statements, in that case, our son B don't need to prepare consolidated. And that is what you told me just now. A is controlled in B, B is controlled in C, and therefore, since A is preparing consolidated statements, consolidate in both B and C, B don't need to prepare consolidated statements on its own.
Yeah.
Right? So the three conditions to be made. One thing, B must inform all the shareholders, look here, our parent is preparing the financial statement, and also B is not a listed company, so that's not a problem. And also the grandfather is preparing consolidated statements, and therefore we are not prepared. So all
So
those.
the yeah, so, sorry, the third item there, can you
Yeah.
think of an example of that? I'm just trying to
Sorry, what is that?
think of an yeah, so yeah, it did not file its financial statements with Securities Commission or other
Yeah.
regulatory
That is just like say it's basically says it is not traded in the public market. That means you are not a listed company. Sometimes your shares may not be listed, but you are registered with the stock exchange. There are certain companies, the shares are not yet listed, they are not selling in the stock market, but you are registered and you are under law to provide financial statements to the stock exchange. If that case,
right, yeah,
company B is not exempted, company B also must prepare consolidated statements.
okay,
A also will prepare consolidating B and C. B will prepare consolidated statements consolidating only C. But so long as A is preparing, and if all the other conditions are met, B need not prepare financial statements. This is another ACCA question that can come up. ACCA is
yes.
very peculiar, concerned about these kind of, sometimes, if I may call it, silly things, right?
It's
Because
very in depth, isn't it? Very in depth.
very in depth, they go into a lot of details. Sometimes it's in a way it's unfair in the examination to test you all that, because in your real world, you don't have to take a decision in 3 hours. You have enough time to refer the books and all the things and see whether B should be consolidated, now all that. But in the exam, it's not very easy. So we need to know what are these conditions that we have to satisfy before we can exempt B from preparing. So they might put up a question like this, put in the company A, B, and C, and saying what are the conditions that is needed to exempt B from preparing the consolidators.
Yes.
Or they might put certain conditions and ask whether B should have its own consolidator. If any one of these conditions are not met, B must prepare its own consolidated statements, consolidating B and C. A must prepare own consolidated statements, consolidating B and C both. Can you hear me?
I can now. You seem to disappear for.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's better. I can hear you now.
Okay. Right. Yes. If just let me know. Right. Okay.
Okay.
We are now coming to the acquisition accounting. So what is acquisition accounting? Acquisition accounting means we basically bring both the parent and subsidiary assets together. We adopt the parent company has 100 million non-current assets, subsidiary has 50 million non-current assets. In the consolidated financial statement, we say 150. Liabilities, parent has 75, subsidiary has 25, we add and we say 100. Income, parent has 100 million revenue, subsidiary has 150 million revenue, we add and we say 250. Expenses, parent has 75, subsidiary has 85, we add and we say 160. Everything combined in full. That's number one.
Yeah.
Second one, there's something called goodwill. Now I want you to understand the relevant accounting standard for the goodwill is not IFRS 10 but IFRS 3. This is called business combination. This is also a new accounting standard. It was not there during our period. They have put up a new accounting standard called IFRS 3, which is all about business combination. The only thing what you don't add, there are two things what we don't add together. Number one is the share capital of the subsidiary. Never add the share capital of the subsidiary company. We add assets, we add the liabilities, but the share capital of the subsidiary is never added in the consolidation. Only the parent company share capital is shown in the consolidation. You remember that one?
Yes, yeah.
Right? Only the parent company. Then because we are combining the financial statements, we have to ensure that all intercompany balances are eliminated in full. Now, for example, you are the parent, I am the subsidiary. You sell goods to me and I am the subsidiary. So, in your books, you will show receivables. Say, shall we say, I owe you 100,000. You will show it as 100,000 receivables, right, in your books.
Yeah.
And I have to pay you. In my books, I will show it as payables 100,000. So when we add both these figures, when you add in receivables, we must remove that 100,000. Because otherwise it's a duplication. And from when you are combined, because it's intercompany, it's home and home, right? So we can't when you're preparing this the merge statements, we can't show home and home balances. We have to remove from the receivables. So parent company will, shall we say parent company has receivables, shall we say parent company receivables 300,000. Subsidiary company receivables are 120,000. But let's assume here the intercompany receivables, let's assume it is 50,000. The parent company 300 includes an intercompany receivable of 50. So when you add 300 plus 120, 420, but you have to remove that intercompany receivable and show only 370 in your consolidated financial statements at receivable. Now when you do that one, now you come to the payable side. Now you are showing it as a receivable. Now in the payable side, parent will have its own payables. Let's assume 200,000. Subsidiary will have its own payables. Let's assume it is 90,000. We know in this 90, there is a 50 intercompany payables. Agreed?
Yeah.
We have to remove that one. We add 290, but remove 50 and show 240. So, as I said, we just go and add in all the assets, we go and add in all the liabilities except the share capital. But any intercompany balances, we must be careful to remove from both sides, payable sides, receivable sides. And another one that can be intercompany is, loan. A parent may give a loan to the subsidiary. In parent books, it will be a loan receivable. In subsidiary books, it will be a loan payable. We have to remove both.
Yeah.
We have to remove both. We have to completely eliminate both. One side we should not show the loan receivable. Other side we should not show the loan payable. If we show both sides, it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Balance in accounts will balance, but it's wrong because when you are preparing consolidated, why are we preparing consolidated? We want to show one picture from the parent company shareholders' point of view. That's the idea of consolidation. To give one picture because the parent has invested big money in the subsidiary. We want to know, hey, after investing this money in the subsidiary, what is happening? Because sometimes it may so happen the parent has invested big money, parent is making good money, profit, but the subsidiary is making losses. The shareholder should know, wow, after investing in the subsidiary, our profits are dropping.
Yeah.
That is the idea we have to prepare. Otherwise, the directors will be very comfortable to show the subsidiary just away from the account. So for that purpose, to give that one picture, one overview picture, only we prepare consolidated statement. So share capital of the group is always only the share capital. Uniform accounting policies must be applied. Now this is another ACCA question. Now for example, your company is in Switzerland, my company is in Sri Lanka, right? Or your company is in UK, my company is in Sri Lanka. You are the parent, I am the subsidiary. And you have to prepare consolidated financial statements, bring in the Sri Lankan subsidiary into your consolidated financial statement. If I'm using some different accounting policies from your accounting policies, you can't just add and deduct and prepare the consolidated statement. First of all, you must restate my financial statement subsidiary in line with your accounting policy. So both the parent and the subsidiary must have same accounting policy.
Yeah.
This was another question I think in ACCA recently. Two companies or three companies, one company was completely, the accounting policies are totally different from the parent. In that case, you cannot simply consolidate. You have to just restate and bring it to the right uniformity, or otherwise you must exclude it from the consolidation and say we have excluded this from consolidation because the accounting policies are different from our company.
Yeah, and is that actually listed in the standard? Because I do remember that actually. That I thought that was within the standard. It is.
It is in the IFRS 10. It is in the IFRS 10. Always uniform accounting policies must be used. Not may be used, must be used.
Yeah.
So because of that, you have to always. So you remember Now parent, for example, our company A.
You're going slightly out of range again. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just writing something now.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I'm writing, you don't hear me. The moment I go into the board, sometimes the voice gets distorted. So sometimes
Okay.
when I'm writing, I keep silent.
Right. Okay.
So A is the parent, B is the subsidiary. A has 60% control of voting rights over B. Now, A owns 60%. The balance 40% of B is owned by some outsiders. And they we call non-controlling interest.
Yeah.
Earlier we were calling them minority interest, but a more refined term now, they are called non-controlling interest. The idea is we control, they don't have control. We are parent, we are controlling the company. They are investors, but they have no control, and that is why we call them non-controlling interest. Now, when we bring all the assets to the balance sheet, when we bring all the liabilities to the balance sheet, when we bring all revenue to the balance sheet, we assume as if we are having the 100% of all the assets. But we have to realize we don't own all the 100% of the assets. We have some other people owning some part of that part. And therefore, after bringing all the assets, all the liabilities, the 40% share of those people should be shown separately, and that is called non-controlling interest. So when the parent prepares the consolidated statements, you have a separate item called non-controlling interest. That is the net assets or the assets minus liability. Their value is shown separately. But the important thing what I want you to understand is it is part of the parent's or the consolidation equity. Now this is what I want you to understand. I'll explain that one. Now remember I told you the share capital of the consolidation is always the parent share capital, right? Parent share capital. Then the retained profits will be the parent's retained profits plus the post-acquisition retained profits of the subsidiary. So I'm going to put up a little chart for you here.
Okay.
Something like this, I'm going to put it up. On the share capital plus liabilities, the parent share capital. Let's assume it is 200 million. Then we have the consolidated retained earnings. Consolidated retained earnings comprises the parent's retained earnings. And also another component called subsidiary retained earnings, the post-acquisition. What is post-acquisition? Now let's assume you acquired a 60% interest in company B. Somewhere in, shall we say, in 1/1/2016. 1/1/2016. That was the day you became the parent. Till such time you are not the parent, some other people were the parents or you were not the parent. But on 1/1/16, you became the parent. And let's assume at that moment the company B retained earnings 80,000. Now that 80, what is retained earnings, Fiona? What is retained earnings in your company's balance sheet? What does that represent?
So that's the profits.
Profits, yes, profits earned, not yet distributed, isn't it? Undistributed profits. Profits earned and distributed is what we call dividends. Profits earned and not yet distributed is what we call retained earnings. So, on 1/1/2016, when you acquired this company 60%, that company had retained earnings of 80,000. Now that belongs to you, true enough. Now you have taken over the company, it belongs to you. But did you earn that one?
No, that's
No, that was earned by the
pre-acquisition.
previous owners, isn't it? That was owned by the
Yeah.
previous owners. So surely they would have charged you for that part also when they sold the company because they have earned it. So they would have told Fiona, if you're going to buy, this is, we have earned for you 80,000 and you have to pay us. After you take the control, now let's assume we are coming to 31/12/2016. 1 year we have controlled the company after taking 60%, and now our retained earnings, let's assume it is going to be 100,000. Now, when we acquired it was 80, now it is 100. So we have earned 20,000. That is by our effort. That is by we controlling the company, we have earned 20,000. That belongs to us. This is what we call post-acquisition money, post-acquisition earnings. After acquiring, retained earnings going up from 80 to 100, that means we have earned another 20,000. Now, if you are having a 60% control, out of this post-acquisition earnings, we are entitled for 60% of that one. 60% of that one. So, parent company, let's assume on 31/12/16, parent company has, let's assume they have a 70,000 that belongs 100% to parent, isn't it? Right? There are no outsiders in the parent company, no? So parent company 100,000 is all 70,000 all, right? In the subsidiary company, the post acquisition, we are entitled only for another 12,000.
Yeah.
This is what we call post acquisition 12,000. So consolidated retained earnings are 12,000 plus 70, what we call 82,000, 82 million. So this 282 million, I want you to note down the name that is given for this, equity of the parent. Of the parent. But this is not all the equity. You remember I told you about non-controlling interest? Now non-controlling interest, maybe at the time they acquire the value of non-controlling interest. I'll come to that in a minute. There are two ways of valuing non-controlling interest. But let's assume that they when they took the company on 1/1/16, whatever the method they used it, the value of non-controlling interest, let's assume it was an 85,000. 85 million. This 1/1/16 non-controlling interest was 85 million. Now after acquiring the company earned 20 million profit. Out of 20 million, 60% belongs to us. The balance 40% belongs to non-controlling interest. So 20 million, 40% is 8 million. So your non-controlling interest, which was 85 at the beginning, is now plus 893. So that is how we call non-controlling interest. If I'm in my balance sheet or the statement of financial position, the consolidated financial position on 31/12/2016, the total equity, now this is the term I want you to learn. This is what we call total equity. So what I was trying to explain to you was the non-controlling interest component is also part of your equity.
Yes.
Right? So if you are calculating gearing or something on the consolidated financial statement, for equity figure, you must be this figure and not this figure.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what that another ACCA area. Whenever we have to calculate any ratios or anything, we must take as total equity, the total equity, the parent equity plus the NCI. This is another important thing I just gave you. Second.
I can't hear you now.
Give me a second.
Okay.
We were talking about non-controlling interests that are present within equity, separated from equity of the owners of the parents. In that case, the equity of the owners was 293 million, and the other one was the non-controlling interest. Together, it is the total equity. And profit also, once the profit comes up in the consolidated P&L, it's a total profit. That total profit we have to split between the parent and the equity. Now that is another important area. I want you to learn it now.
Yeah.
Now, let's assume after all the adjustments, everything, the total consolidated profit after tax is 300 million. We done? We have taken the total revenue of both the companies, total cost of sales of both the companies, total expenditure of both the companies, total taxes of both the companies. We have added all that. The total profit is 300 million, right? And we know 30 million of this is subsidiary profit. 30 million subsidiary profit. So our question is, this profit after tax of 300 million, we must split between the parent and non-controlling interest. My question is, the parent owns 60% of the subsidiary. Now my question is, how should we split this 300 million between the parent and the non-controlling interest, Fiona?
So the 60% belongs to the parent and 40% is the non-controlling interest.
Yeah, that means, what are you saying? 300 million, 60% to the parent, 340% to the NCI?
Yeah.
You are a very generous lady.
So
you are a very generous
so 108.
lady. Yeah?
So 180 to the parent and the balance to the non-controlling interest.
That's what I said, you are a very generous lady. Now you must understand something, right? Out of the 300 million, 30 million is the subsidiary profit. 270 million is the parent profit. Now why should you give out of the parent profit 40% to some outsiders? Our company earned 270 million. This company earned 30 million. Okay? Now why should you give out of 270 million? Because your company shareholders are some more people. Subsidiary company only you own 60%, 40% outsiders. You get me?
Yeah, so the okay, so the 270 belongs to
parent
anyway. So
yes.
It's 60% of the 30 million, not 60% of the 300 million.
Yeah. So 40% of 30 million belongs to outsiders, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's 12 million.
This is a very important calculation what I did, because almost all the students make the same mistake like you, because you all are very generous ladies. You want to give out of our profit, out of our profit.
It's listening and reading the question properly, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because out of our profits, our hard-earned profit, we can't give it to some outsiders the profit. So we had to only give them the 12 million. So out of 300 million, we will give 200 million to the subsidiary non-controlling interest. The balance in figure 288 million is for us. This is the right split. The way you split, they will be very happy to get 120 million, but that's not the that's not the way to move forward, right?
No, I think I misunderstood where those figures were coming from, which again is reading the question properly and listening.
I think actually 50% of our problems are solved if we read the question well.
Yes.
That's why I always say take lot of time to read the question, because most of our problems, when we don't read the question properly, we get into lot of difficult areas. So this is the way we should split. So all the time, whenever a consolidated income statement comes up, please check what is the subsidiary profit. Only from the subsidiary profit give their share, and the balance in figure is all parent.
Yeah.
That's the way we will calculate. Basically, let us come to the consolidation work steps. So always these are the important ones. When we know these basic ones, it's very easy for us to work through any difficult consolidation, because if we don't get our basics right, we will find it very, very complicated. If you just go by the formulas, you find it extremely difficult. So I'm going to put you on very important exercise to look at certain important dates, important figures. First thing we must look at is, when did we acquire? We are preparing the consolidated statements as at 31/12/16. That's all right. But when did we take the controlling interest? So that was maybe 1/1/16, maybe 1/1/15, maybe 14, or maybe halfway through this year we took the control. That's the important day. That's the day we have to see what are the retained earnings on that day. Any increase of retained earnings from that day, it's a post-acquisition profit. But unfortunately or fortunately, in ACCA, what I've seen, they say 80 million is on the day of acquisition. Normally, CIMA, what happens is 80 goes up to 120, but ACCA goes on the reverse direction, and they say on the date of acquisition it was 80 million, and on the date of consolidation, or the date of reporting, it is 60 million. Now what has happened? Retained earnings have come down from 80 to 60.
Yeah.
How come it can come down?
So they've made a loss.
Yes, because if it is going up, it means it is increasing. If it is coming down, that means post-acquisition losses. So if you have post-acquisition losses, just like we add the post-acquisition profits, we must deduct the post-acquisition losses. That is why the consolidation becomes very useful, because we might find after acquiring the subsidiary, we are making losses. So the parent company retained earnings, which was 270 on its own balance sheet, now will come down to 258 or something like that, because we have to take a 20 million loss from the subsidiary. 60% of that we have to consider. So parent company shows 270, but the consolidation shows 258. And immediately a shareholder can stand up and ask the question, hey, parent is showing 270, how come the consolidator is showing 258? That means the subsidiary what you have invested is making losses. That is why we say we must prepare the subsidiary, the consolidated account. So net assets. Now what is net assets, Fiona? Very important term. What is net assets?
So net assets is your non-current assets current assets added together, and then deducted from that would be equity and liabilities.
Yeah, now look at something like this, right? Sorry. Look at something like this. Something like this. Let's assume that what you said was total assets minus, what did you say?
Liabilities, and also any fair value adjustments, because they're bound to throw some of those in.
Yeah, that's correct. So what is net assets? What is net assets? Net assets is total assets minus what?
Equity and liabilities.
Look at the balance sheet. Look at the balance sheet. Balance sheet, a picture of the balance sheet. What do we have? On one side, we have equity plus liabilities. Equity, share capital plus retained earnings plus whatever the other reserves. So let's assume equity is 200 million. Then we have non-current liabilities. 100 million. The current liabilities million. Split it further here. Equity, share capital is total share capital plus retained earnings 200. Non-current liabilities 100, current liabilities 350. On the other side, we have non-current assets. Let's assume it is 180. Current assets 170. Now look at these figures and tell me what is your total net assets. So you said total asset 350 minus what figure?
So, sorry, on the right-hand side, so what does that mean? Is that N?
Non-current assets.
That's net.
Non-current assets. Non-current assets 180. Current assets 170. So right-hand side 350 balances with those two. On the left-hand side, we have share capital 150, retained earnings 50, which is called total equity 200. Non-current liabilities 100, current liabilities 50, 350. So my question is, in this statement, what is your net assets? What is your net assets figure?
200.
200. How did you get that one?
The non-current assets and the current assets added together,
50.
less the liabilities.
Less the liabilities.
The 100 plus the 50.
Less the liabilities, 150. What did that figure represents, Fiona? Total assets minus total liabilities. In your home, once you take your total assets and minus your total liabilities, whatever your assets, whatever your liabilities, what does that figure represent for you?
So that represents what you're left with. So in effect,
that is your
assets are worth.
That is your basically your wealth, isn't it?
Yes.
The wealth of the company is the net assets. Net assets are total assets minus total liabilities. That is the wealth of the company. The wealth of the company belongs to the equity people, and that is what is represented in the 200. Understand?
Yeah.
Right? So when we say one way of net assets is total assets minus total liabilities, the other way to say net assets is to take the total equity figure. Share capital plus retained earnings plus any other reserves. The total amount is what we call the net assets. So there are two ways of defining net assets: total assets minus total liabilities, or total shareholder wealth, which is the share capital plus reserves. And for that, as you rightly said, you might have to work some adjustments for fair value adjustments, all that. But for the moment, forget about the fair value adjustment. This is this is the figure
I'm thinking, and I'm thinking ahead because I remember all the questions and I know what else will be the added complications.
yeah. You're good. You know all the complications, so it's so good.
Yeah, there won't be any surprises because I'm expecting them.
Yeah. So that's a good thing because your head is already working on the complications, so that will make the complications much simpler now.
Yes.
Right. So coming back, what we say is always you have to remember the net assets. Net assets is what the company owns. What is that? Share capital plus retained earnings. And when we buy from a company, we buy that net assets of the company. So on a subsidiary, if the net assets share capital is 100 million, if the retained earnings are 60 million, what we buy is 160 million, right? 160 million. So 160 million is the net assets. And if you are assuming we are taking the 100% control of that company, and if you are going to pay anything more than 160 million, that is what we call the goodwill.
Goodwill on acquisition, yeah.
Goodwill at the acquisition. Goodwill only comes at the acquisition now. IFRS 3 says goodwill is only once and for all, that is at the acquisition, and thereafter no more goodwill coming up at any time. Earlier our time, every time whenever we take additional interest, we have another goodwill coming up. But now that is no longer there in according to our consolidation now. There's only one goodwill, and that is at the acquisition. So we have to look at the day that we take the control. Okay, when we take the control, it is, let's assume in this particular company, your share capital plus retained earnings plus other reserves. For the moment, it is fair value adjustment side. And if we take all that, and if that is 200 million, and if we are taking 60% interest, for example, 200 million, 60% of 200 million is what we are taking, 120 million. And if we have to pay 150 million, that difference is what we call the goodwill. Why should we pay more? Why should we pay more?
Because you're interested in that business and you're going to have to pay more to acquire it.
Yeah, because
more than it's worth.
Because you perceive there is something more than what is reflected in the books as something which is what we call intangibles inside the company. Established company will have a brand name. Established company will have lot of customers. Established company will have lot of reputation. For all that, what we pay is what we call the goodwill.
Yeah.
So that's the number one we calculate the goodwill. Actually, in consolidation, there are only three calculations mainly to do. One is the goodwill calculation. Second one is the non-controlling interest. Third one is the post-acquisition retained earnings or post-acquisition profit. So long as we know how to do those three, all the others are complications which you are already in your head, which we can do it together.
Yeah.
Right? So tomorrow when we meet, we will be proceeding on these lines and hoping I can do, now we have gone into the very core of the consolidation. I think I should be able to move and do, and by say tomorrow is Wednesday, by Thursday hopefully, we should be looking at one question at least.
Yes, yeah. So what's your available? Because obviously I've got the sessions booked for this week, but I am looking to book more sessions with you.
Next week?
Because next week and the week after.
Yeah.
Obviously.
For the moment, I'm generally all right for this time.
Okay. Is this the best time for you then?
Yeah, this time generally I'm all right. Most of the days I think I'm all right. This is either my sleeping time or, you know, just the time that I spend it, because then this is generally this time looks all right for me. Even next week I can see, except maybe except maybe no, I think all the days should be looking all right for me next week so far. Yeah.
Okay, and the 2 weeks after that, I will have more time
Okay.
Available for studying, so I can do a lot more questions on my own as well.
Sure. Yeah. And what
yeah,
we
so
will do is then after that you can do, I will send you questions, you can do some questions and send it, and then we can discuss it, whatever the areas that we need to discuss.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
do I need to book those sessions with you now to make sure that...
You go through your diary, send me a mail.
Okay.
And I'll try to block some other times, but I think I'm generally all right. I can't see any major programs happening next week for the moment. But we can always be flexible. You send me your time, I'll try to fix it up for you.
Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Right. So I'll see you tomorrow, same time.
Okay. Thank you then.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.